All right, hi everyone. I see it says 11:59 on my clock in the corner, but that doesn't mean that we can't start at 11:59. The recording is already rolling. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. If you're coming to us live, we're right at that midday hour, noon Central Standard Time. If you're watching the recording, hey, it could be any time. It could be 12 a.m. or 12 p.m. So I'm glad that you're here with us. Today, we are going to be talking about Google Jamboard in the Noon Learning Series. And I'm so glad that you could join live today, or if you're watching the recording, that is super. So after I'm going to get rolling here. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera just so that when I'm presenting, sometimes I'm looking down. I might have notes on another screen. So I don't want to make sure that I'm not like avoiding you or anything like that. But welcome to everyone here, and let's get started talking about Google Jamboard. Okay. So what are we going to talk about today? In the next 30 minutes, my plan is to talk about what is Jamboard. We're going to take a look at the Jamboard interface and how it differs on a few different devices. I have a version comparison chart for you. So if you're wondering what is available on the different devices, I can show you what that is. We'll talk about how Jamboard integrates with Google Meet as well. We're going to do a live demonstration, and I have a link to an interactive jam for us to all join in on as well. If you're part of this for the recording, I will leave the jam open for you to play around with if you want to as well. We'll have some ideas for your jam, how you do it in your classroom, ways to jazz up your jam, and we'll do a little bit of a wrap up. So here we go. What is Google Jamboard? Well, Google Jamboard is a collaborative whiteboard that's part of Google Workspace. And I'm using Google Workspace because that is the new terminology. It used to be called like G Suite for Education. You might have heard that terminology, but Google's rebranding and it's called Google Workspace. So this is what we are for the Google Workspace. The physical Jamboard, and you can kind of see it in the background of my animated GIF there, it's actually a real thing. There is a Google Jamboard, and it's been around since 2016. What we're going to be working with today is what they call the companion app. Even if it's on the web or if you happen to be on your iPad or on an Android device, it's called the companion app because it would work with that physical Jamboard. By the way, if you're wondering what a physical Jamboard priced at, like $1 under $5,000, plus there'd be a cost for that pretty rolling stand, and you need to pay a $600, at least it's a perpetual license for EDU. If businesses buy these, it's $600 a year management fee for the Google Jamboard. Have I ever used a real Jamboard? Yes. When I was lucky enough to travel to Philadelphia in the summer of 2019, I was able to go to the Google party and they had a Jamboard there. And of course, I had to jam on the Jamboard. What was the experience like? You know, it's an interactive whiteboard. It's pretty, it's googly, but I think the real power of Jamboard are in these companion apps, and that's what we're going to look at today. So we're going to talk about the interfaces here quick, and you will have a link to this slide deck that you're watching right now. So if you want to share the ideas about Jamboard with your co-teachers or with your students, and you're wondering what all the tools mean, you are more than welcome to use my slide deck because I have everything annotated out here for you. So this is the web version. Most likely this is going to be the version that you are most familiar with. You can see that we have the jam name. The frame manager here at the top, that has to do with we call the pages, or if you're thinking like Google Slides, like the slides, but they're called frames inside a Jamboard. Undo, redo, we can zoom in on it. If you go over here, we have the more share area. So the more is what the three dots are. Then that's the drop-down menu there. We have our sharing, just like anything else googly, we can share. And then, of course, shows what account you're on. On the web version, we can set the background. You can do this on the iOS and Android version, but the web version has the difference that you can bring in your own image. That is not available on the iOS or Android version. We have pen tools with a 6-color tool palette, pen, marker, highlighter, brush. But when we get into this, you might see that, hey, even though there's only 6 colors, really, with the way these different pens are, we could almost expand our color palette by the way that the shading is looked in there. We have eraser, the select tool, sticky notes. So it kind of reminds me back in the day of Padlet, being able to add sticky notes. You can bring in images or do an image search, I should say here, or bring in other images. Your shapes menu right here. The reason why I'm showing you the web version because it does look a little bit different on iOS, as you will see. You can bring in a text box and your laser pointer. So if you want to be able to highlight something without necessarily writing on the jam, you can actually just use the laser pointer and move that around. Well, this is the web version. And now that was super duper quick because we only have a half an hour today. And I want to make sure that we get into an interactive jam where you can try it as well. But what is different about like the iPad version? Okay. For one thing, when we come into it, the one thing that I hate the most about the iPad version that's not there is the name of the jam. It is nowhere to be seen. So you just kind of have to remember which file you're in or check mark and go out and make sure you're in the right one. Now, on the web version, we get our jam name. And in the Android version, we get the jam name. But it is not here in the iPad version, which I think is a glaring omission on Google's part. What are some of the things the same? Our frame manager, background menu, but look, we can't bring in our own image. We have our more menu, and you're going to see a button on the iPad that's a little bit different than the web because this is where you could actually like cast to the physical Jamboard. So if you don't have one and you press that button, it just says looking for Jamboard. So it doesn't do anything. So if you don't have one, it doesn't do anything. If you do have one, it's going to look for that and be able to like cast your jam to that Jamboard device. We have our pen tools inside the iPad version. Same 4 pens, same 6 colors, but there is more options. There are more options in the iPad version. We have handwriting recognition, shape recognition, and auto draw, which I will demonstrate as well. We have the erase function, and this does have a sub-menu here. Why it does, in the web version, we have the eraser, and up here it says clear frame. In the iPad version, that's underneath that drop-down menu where we can choose to erase or clear the whole frame. So it's just, that's what the difference is. It's kind of nested in there. We have our selection tool, our laser pointer is there. And then we have this whole new menu at the bottom called the insert menu. And on the insert menu, this is what it looks like. We have our sticky notes. We can do an image search to bring things in. We can bring in drive content. I'll show you how cool that is. And of course, when you're on a mobile device, either Android or iPad, you have access to that live camera. So you'll be able to take a picture and be able to put it in right away. You don't necessarily have to have it in your image library, but of course you have access to it. And in the iPad version, stickers. Now, there aren't a lot of stickers. These, in fact, right here are the only stickers that are available, but at least it is a little bit of something. I'm hoping Google does make an expansion on some stickers and has some more menus of what can be in there. Remember, you can bring in text on in the iPad version, of course, and if you can bring in text, you could bring in emojis and all sorts of things as well. One thing to note, I'm showing you the iPad version, and you're thinking, oh, I could do this on my iPhone as well. Absolutely you can, but there are 3 items missing on the iPhone version. What's not available on the iPhone is auto draw, which is right there, the image search, and stickers. Those are not available on the iPhone version, but otherwise everything else is exactly the same if you have an iPhone. Where I really see the power of Jamboard is either if you're in class or doing remote or a mix of both. If you have something on the web and you're sharing your jam that way, if you have another device, especially like an iPad or a Android device, a tablet or a Chromebook that's enabled that can do Android. I think that's the power, to be able to have the best of both worlds, have all the web tools available and have these mobile tools available as well. Because you can join the jam from 2 different locations on the same account. Why not? What are the limitations of a jam? Hey, you can have up to 50 people at one time on a jam, and you can have up to 20 frames per jam. So like I said, frames were like pages. And so you can have up to 20 frames in a jam and up to 50 people collaborating at the same time. Now, it does get a little bit dicey when you get up towards that 45, 6, 7, 8, 9 area. I mean, just like a Google Doc. You know, if too many people are on a Google Doc, it's not as much fun. But, you know, you can always make another jam and like split your group out and all that kind of stuff. What's different between the iPad version and the Android version? Not a whole heck of a lot. In fact, the biggest thing is the name of the jam that's up here. We still have all our same pen tools, the handwriting recognition, the frame manager, the stickers and the sticky notes and the more menu. Some of the iconography is a little bit different. Let me go back to the iPad and take a look at the iconography over on this side. And now we're going to go to the Android and see how the icons look just a little bit different over there. So not a lot of difference, but there is a slight difference. Okay, here's this version comparison chart that I have for you. And remember, you're going to have a link to this presentation that I'm doing. So if you were to share this out or you can't remember, don't worry. I have everything right here ready for you. So what is included on each version? We have the web version versus the iPad OS. And I put iPad OS here just so that you remember that the iPad, and there are a few missing things on the iPhone and Android. I'm speaking to the Android tablet version. I do not have an Android phone so that I would know the difference. My suspicion is it would have the same things missing as the iPhone version, but I cannot speak to that for real because I don't have an Android phone to be able to do that from. So that's that version comparison. These two very similar. It's that name of jam that's missing in the iPad version. And you can definitely see that the iPad version or the tablet version has way more tools. Okay, so let's take a look at that in a moment. How does Jamboard integrate with Meet? Well, if you're inside a Google Meet, in fact, I could do one right now. I could start a jam, and that's in that lower right-hand corner where the 3 dots are at, and where you would click that, and a window's going to pop up, and it says whiteboard, open a jam. When you press that button, you get an option. You can start a new whiteboard, or if you had one that was pre-populated with, say, some prompts or anything like that, you can go ahead and navigate to your drive and then open up that jam right in your Meet. Now, say if you were in your Meet and you started a new one. What is really cool about Google that helps us out about that is if you are in your Meet, if you are in your URL, you always see that it has this extension on the end of the URL. That's the identifier for the Meet. If you start a new jam inside your Meet, it will have that same identifier along with the date timestamp, and it automatically saves to your Google Drive. So if you're wondering, oh my gosh, I was in that Meet and it was on Tuesday of last week, what did we do on that jam that you just started on the fly? It's all right in your drive and searchable to be able to see in there. And of course, you can go back and edit it and share it and do everything that you want to again. So Jamboard and Meet, you can start it right inside there. And of course, you could always just start a new tab and share out your Meet that way, or share out your jam that way. That's what I'm going to do today, just because that's what I'm going to do, okay? So just know that Jamboard is integrated right inside Meet. All right, live demonstration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a jam that I have pre-populated, and in about 3 minutes, I'm going to give you the link to the jam. If you have a secondary mobile device and want to join it right now, you're going to see this bit.ly link. Actually, let me go ahead and put it in the chat window right now. So if you want to join in on this collaborative jam that we have going on, but if you have a secondary device, you might want to pull that out as well so that you can keep your screen on and see what we're doing, and you can collaborate in the meet at the same time. Or if you don't want to be in the collaborative jam and just want to watch, that's just fine as well. I put the link in the chat in our Google Meet. And again, if you have an additional device and want to type it in, we have bit.ly/noon-jam-demo, all one word, but jam is all caps. And remember, a bit.ly link is case sensitive. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds more on that. Reminder, it is in the chat as well. So if you need to reference it there. All right, in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, the link that I gave to you was this one right here. And let me get to the beginning of this because I have a few pages in here. I can see that some people have joined in here, and that's awesome. If you want to go ahead and collaborate, that is just fine as well. If you're in the web version, you can see that you can add your sticky note. So if you want to leave your name and school district here, you can go ahead and grab a sticky note on the side, and you can put your name in and your school district. Now you can choose your color. Now when it comes in, it might go over the top of someone else's, but you can just pull it out. You can be able to move them around. You can resize if you want to. You can even tip it on the side if you want to kind of place it like a kind of a different sticky note, kind of different fun kind of thing to do there. So you're seeing already how this is a really good way to maybe do an entrance or something kickoff, icebreaker for either a meeting or your classroom, something really super easy, name and school district. I could have asked for anything else. Now, as we're going along, I'm going to go ahead and go into the next frame here. And on the next frame, and how you get to the frames, we have our frame manager across the top. You can either do a drop down and click right on the frame, or you can just use these navigation arrows to get to the next frame. So we're using this right here, and I'm asking you to go ahead and use your pen tool and put a check mark under your favorite season. So you can grab any pen tool that you want to and grab any color that you want to, preferably not black, but this black is a little bit grayer. Okay, and you could choose a pen, or you could choose the marker, the highlighter, or the paintbrush. I'm going to go ahead and use the paintbrush, and I'm going to join over here on autumn. So maybe are you seeing kind of an easy way that you can be able to do some voting for something in a classroom or get some opinions really quick of what's going on? Now, in this right here, you're like, how did you get that cool text in there? Remember at the end, I talked about, or in my outline for the day, I talked about how you can jazz up your jam. I will show you how you can jazz up your jam, and that right there. Okay. Hey, let's take a look at this next frame right here. If anyone ever has done blackout poetry. So what I did is I took a screenshot of the text from The Wizard of Oz and saved it as an image, and then brought that in as the background image. So you can't move this image around. That's the background image. So if you're any bit familiar with blackout poetry, we're going to go ahead and grab our marker tool here and on the pen. So we are going to be able to scratch some of these out and then make blackout poetry. Now this is a little bit hard to do with the mouse. Okay, a little bit hard to do with the mouse, but I do have my iPad here connected as well, and I'm using my Apple Pencil. You would not have to use your Apple Pencil for this. Have an Apple Pencil, I should say. And now you can see my screen. I'm on the iPad version here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab marker tool, and that makes it a lot easier to be able to do blackout poetry, especially on that touch device. Now you could do this also on like a touch screen enabled Chromebook and be able to have an interesting way to do blackout poetry. Just an idea, something to bring in your classroom. Again, I'm on my iPad. I'm just sharing my screen with you here. And I happen to be using my Apple Pencil, but you do not have to have an Apple Pencil in order to make Jamboard work. It simply just works with your finger. On another tab here, we're on frame number 4 if you want to join us. Do we still need movie theaters? Use a text box or a sticky note under yes or no for your thoughts. So this is a way to be able to bring in some discussion into your classroom, people defending their statements about what's going on. Now, as you're doing this in the jam here, I can see who is on which jam because I can see all of these different things. Now, mine says anonymous because that's the way I shared out the link, because anyone with the link could view, all right? I had it a little bit different than I would probably do in a classroom. Of course, Jam integrates with Google Classroom if you're that, or if you're in Schoology like we are, you can totally have that as well. So I asked for either a sticky note or that text box, and do we still need movie theaters that you can put your thoughts in there? That's fun. Great way to get in there. Again, a little bit of some fancy text in here to be able to put that in there. And you get your ideas. You don't have to have people put their name by it, just defending a statement. A way to have a little bit of discourse in your classroom. Okay? And you can see it all populating live. I just love that. Now, if you're in your classroom with something in a collaboration tool, of course, you're going to go over the rules of what collaboration is about and how you don't delete someone else's or write over someone else's. Those are those things that you want to be able to talk about in there as well. All right, I'm going to keep going because we have a little bit more to show. Now, I have a few pages in here that just say free space. You're more than welcome just to grab any tool that you want to. I'm going to go ahead on my iPad and show you the screen on the free space because I want to demonstrate for you the assistive writing tools. Okay. Why I want to show those? Because they are so unique to the iPad or the Android, that tablet version. If I go into that pen tool and go into the assistive drawing tools, the first option is text to text, it says. So this is a handwriting recognition on the iPad. I can either write, as in printing, and it automatically turns it into text, or I can even do cursive and it turns it into text. Now you might want to, write a little bit cleanly. I don't know if they really would scribble in there per se and be able to read it, but that is, again, this is on iPad and Android, not on the web version. In the assistive drawing tools, we have handwriting recognition. Now, if I choose the next option, shape recognition, this helps me draw shapes so much more easily. So if I'm trying to draw a circle, it's not the best, but Google helps me out. If I'm trying to draw a square, it's not the best, but Google helps me out. Same thing with triangle. We can even do different types of triangles. We could do that oval shape in there so that it recognizes it and adds it in. Super cool. One final thing on the assistive writing drawing tools on the iPad or the Android version is the auto draw. And if you've ever been on the auto draw website, this is just super fun as well. Now I want to draw a house. My house is not the best looking house, but Google recognized it as a house, and I can just choose this option right here. And then I can even make it bigger and put that in where I want to. Now, it would have taken me a long time to draw that house like that, but with that assistive tool, Google figured it out and wanted to put that house in there. Assistive draw is just really interesting to try out. Like they show, like you're trying to draw a cat and it puts that in there. Let's see if I can even try that. Let's go this and this. Do I mean? Sure, I mean this kitty cat right here. And that puts that in there right for you. And then you can get rid of the menu. Again, I can make it bigger. While it's selected, I do believe I can change the color of it. Maybe and maybe not. I guess not. Once I selected here, I can go into that more menu. I could duplicate it, delete it, or I can even have order. I can send it backwards, bring it forward. So if I want it behind my text, I can have it behind my text because I sent it to that back layer. Notice when I'm on that iPad, if I want to get rid of something, all I'm doing is like shoving this down with my finger and that trash can dumps in there. One final thing that I want to show you, and you're more than welcome to keep working on the free space, is I went a little bit further down the line here, and I added in something new that I figured out how to do. What if we could add scratch-off cards? So we are on a scratch-off card. So I did this background inside of Canva, and then I brought it into Jam, and then I just put a whole bunch of ink right here. If I grab that eraser tool, it says use the eraser tool to scratch off the circles, and then use the pen tool to write your guess and then add a picture of your guess. So these are clues that are here. And I can keep scratching them off until I can figure it out. Just a little bit something fun, a little bit interactive here. So I took this a step further and I thought, well, scratch and guess. By the way, does anybody know what that animal is? Someone in the test box asked, in the chat asked, are these drawing features only available on the iPad? The assistive drawing tools are available on the iPad and Android version. All the regular pens are always just there on the web, but the assistive ones where it just does the shapes and the text and the auto draw for you, that's only on iPad or Android. A guess on the scratch and guess, if you got it, go ahead and play on frame number 12. I did scratch and guess, but I also did scratch and add. Use the eraser tool to scratch off 3 circles and then go ahead and add the pen tool to be able to do your math. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to bring up my iPad version just to show you the difference. All right, so we have scratch and add. So it's asking me to erase 3 circles. Oh, somebody's already in and helping me. And another one. And another one. By the way, I love the effect of the eraser on the iPad. Look at it, you can even see it go away. So then we could take our pen tool, because it asks for 3 circles, so you could be able to watch your students if they're following directions. And then we can go ahead and 32 and 10. And I do not want the assistive tool on. I just want the regular pen tool on. 891. So that's scratch and add. One more, scratch and write. So this was using, it said erase off all the circles and then use the pen tool to write as many words as you can. So like using our CVC words. If I grab that eraser in here, I get B-O-T-N-E-A. Then I'm going to grab my pen tool and I'm going to see how many words I can make with that. So I have bot and bat and bet and net and 10 and ant and tan and ton and bone. So that becomes a fun game as well. I mean, this is so super fun things to do on this interactive board. Now our time is getting nigh. You are more than welcome to keep interacting on this jam, but I want to make sure that I get through my other slides here. What are some ideas for your jams? Oh my gosh, your head is probably already spinning already, but look at all this. Check-in attendance, brainstorming, goals, problem solving, demonstration, annotation, prediction, reflection, collaboration, sharing, deduction, choice, voting, storytelling, screen recording, graphic organizer, pros, cons, brain dump, sketchnoting, and exit tickets. That's just like 20 of them that I came off the top of my head, and how you can put these into any curricular area. I talked about jazzing up your jam. You can use text generators, and I have links to all the text generators on the website that you're going to get a link to that has everything that I'm talking about here. You can create backgrounds and slides and drawings or Canva, Adobe Spark, Buncee, because remember you can bring that background in. You can bring in good photos from your Google account. You can add animated GIFs, and you're like, what? I can add animated GIFs? What the what? So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to add an animated GIF. I'm going to grab into my Jamboard here, and I'm going to go ahead and go to Giphy. And let's do sunshine. And I know we're going to run over a little bit, but I hope you can stay with me for the next few minutes. Believe me, I could go about an hour and a half on the topic of Jamboard and still not probably cover everything, because it is, for what it is, I mean, there's so much that you can do to it. Now, this is pretty cool, by the way. I remember I am on the web here, okay? If I see a cool GIF, and that's the way I say it, here in Giphy, and I want to make sure that I put it on my Jamboard. Here I am on Giphy. I see the animated GIF I like. I can actually left click, drag that, drop it so it opens up that tab, and drop it right on my jam, and now I have that animated GIF there. Are you kidding me? That is so cool. I bet you didn't know you could do that. So that is the way that you can add those animated GIFs to your jams as well. And finally, wrap up. Oh my gosh, here we are at the end of our session. I am so glad that you could be with us today. What you're going to do is you're going to look for a wrap-up email with a link to this recording, and it's going to have a link to this page right here that has the slide deck, has the links to all the companion apps, talks about if you'd want to buy a jam board. I'm not a reseller. I don't get anything from it. So if you do, you do. You don't, you don't. Talks about text generators here and all sorts of other sites that are available for you to do Jamboard. I am more than willing to stay on for more minutes if people have questions, because I didn't allow for much time for questions today because there's so much cool stuff. But please feel free to unmute yourself right now if you want to, or go ahead and type in the chat. And if you have any questions live, but just know I'm going to keep the Google Meet going, but I'm going to go ahead and close out the recording right now. Okay. So thank you for joining us on the recording today. Have a good one.